If you've ever stood in a Joann's, a Bernina dealership, or scrolled Amazon at 1 a.m. looking at 40 different sewing machines that all claim to be the best, I need you to stop right there. Because here's the truth nobody in the industry wants to say out loud. Most sewing machine brands on the market today are not worth your money. Some are plastic gear disasters dressed up in cute packaging. Some are riding on a 100-year-old name while quietly cutting corners in the factory. And some, a very small number, are actually engineering machines the way they used to be built, to last decades, to hold their resale value, and to make your sewing genuinely better, not just possible. I've spent 4 decades with a needle in my hand, sewing wedding gowns, tailoring suits, restoring vintage machines, and testing everything from a $90 Singer at a big box store to a $10,000 Bernina in a dealer's back room. And today, I'm giving you my real list. Not a sponsored list. Not an affiliate list. The 7 sewing machine brands that have earned the right to be called worth the money, and exactly why each one deserves its spot. Stick around, because number 4 might surprise you, and by the end of this video, you're going to know exactly which brand fits your budget, your skill level, and your sewing goals. Let's get into it. Why brand actually matters. Before we jump into the list, let's clear something up. A lot of beginner sewists think brand is just marketing fluff, that a sewing machine is a sewing machine, and the only thing that matters is stitch count or a shiny touchscreen. That is simply not true, and here's why. A sewing machine brand tells you about 3 things: the metal-to-plastic ratio inside the machine, the quality control on the assembly line, and, maybe most importantly, whether you'll be able to find parts, feet, and a repair technician in 10 years. A machine can look identical to another machine on a shelf and be a completely different animal on the inside. That's why 2 machines that look almost the same can be priced $200 apart, and the more expensive one is actually the bargain. So when I say worth the money, I'm not saying cheapest. I'm saying, for what you pay, does this machine deliver durability, consistent tension, accessible parts, and a company that stands behind it? That's the bar. 7 brands clear it. Let's start with the most accessible one. Brand 1. Singer, the name that built American sewing. You cannot talk about sewing machines in the United States without starting with Singer. This is a company that's been part of American households since the 1850s, and there's a reason your grandmother's Singer from 1962 is still stitching in someone's sewing room right now, while machines made 5 years ago are already in a landfill. Here's the nuance, though, and it's an important one. Not every Singer machine today is created equal. Singer's ultra-budget models sold at big box stores for under $100 are, frankly, disposable. But once you move into Singer's heavy-duty line, machines like the Singer 4452 or the Singer HD 6380M, typically priced in that $170 to $220 range, you're getting a genuinely different machine. These have a stronger internal frame, a more powerful motor, and they can punch through denim, canvas, and multiple layers without flinching. For the price, that kind of muscle is hard to beat. Singer earns its spot on this list for one specific reason: value at the entry level. If you are a beginner or you need a reliable workhorse for basic garment construction, quilting tops, or costume work, and you don't want to spend more than $200, Singer's heavy-duty series is the smart, defensible choice. Just avoid the ultra-cheap novelty models. Those are the ones giving the brand a bad name in sewing forums. Brand 2. Brother, the feature king. If Singer is the reliable elder, Brother is the brand that figured out how to pack the most features into the smallest price tag, and, honestly, nobody does it better in 2026. Brother is a Japanese company with massive manufacturing scale, and that scale means they can throw in things like automatic needle threaders, drop-in bobbins, and dozens, sometimes hundreds, of built-in stitches at price points that would make other brands blush. Take something like the Brother SE725, a combination sewing and embroidery machine with wireless connectivity, sitting around $400. Or step up to the Brother SE2000, closer to $1,300, which gets you a larger embroidery field and more advanced digitizing capability. Compare that to what you'd pay for similar embroidery capability from a premium European brand, and Brother is often less than half the cost. Brother also gets real credit in 2026 for its sustainability push. The company has been working towards science-based targets initiative certification, which tells you they're thinking about longevity and environmental impact, not just pushing units. Between the tech-forward feature set and that manufacturing muscle, Brother earns its place as the value meets innovation brand on this list. The trade-off, and it's a fair one, is that Brother's plastic components mean these machines don't have quite the multi-decade lifespan of a Janome or a Bernina. But dollar for dollar, feature for feature, nobody touches Brother in the under $1,500 range. Brand 3, Janome, the quiet workhorse. Janome doesn't get the flashy marketing budget of Brother, and it doesn't have the prestige branding of Bernina. And that's exactly why Suists who know machines tend to love it so much. Janome just quietly makes excellent, durable machines without needing to shout about it. What sets Janome apart mechanically is consistency. Ask any repair technician which brand comes in for the fewest tension complaints and bobbin jams, and Janome comes up again and again. The company builds with a heavier internal skeleton than most of its competitors at the same price, which means smoother stitch quality on tricky fabrics, silk, vinyl, multiple layers of denim, without constant recalibration. Janome also owns something most people don't realize. Bernina's more affordable bonnet line is actually manufactured by Janome under license. So when you hear that bonnet quality matches Bernina, what you're really hearing is that Janome's manufacturing standard is good enough for a premium Swiss brand to put its name on it. For 2026, Janome has also leaned into sustainability with its MOVE initiative, focused on longer-lasting, more energy-efficient machines, which lines up exactly with what this brand has always been about: build it right, and it'll outlive the trend cycle. If you want a machine that will still be sewing perfectly in 15 years without babying it, Janome earns its spot here. Brand 4, Juki, the industrial dark horse. Here's the one that surprises people. Juki isn't a household name the way Singer or Brother is, but if you ask serious quilters and garment makers which machine they'd grab first in a house fire, an alarming number of them say the same thing: they're Juki. The flagship home model, the Juki TL-2010Q, typically runs somewhere between $1,000 and $1,500, and it does exactly one thing: a straight stitch. That's it. No zigzag, no built-in embroidery patterns, none of the bells and whistles. And that's precisely the point. Because this machine only has to do one job, Juki built it like an industrial machine: die-cast aluminum body, a motor with real industrial-grade torque, and stitching speeds up to 1,500 stitches per minute with adjustable speed control. What that means in practice: rock-solid tension through 8 layers of quilt batting, clean seams through denim and leather without hesitation, and a stitch quality that consistently gets compared to machines costing 3 or 4 times as much. Quilters especially prize the TL-2010Q because it removes the single biggest frustration in machine piecing: inconsistent tension, almost entirely. Juki earns its spot on this list as the does one thing perfectly brand. It's not for a beginner who needs decorative stitches for a first garment, but for anyone doing serious yardage, quilting, garment construction, home decor. The reliability per dollar on a Juki is arguably the best on this entire list. Brand 5, Baby Lock, the embroidery ecosystem. Baby Lock earns its place here for a very specific reason. Nobody builds a better complete embroidery experience for the money. If your sewing journey includes monogramming, applique, or embroidery of any kind, Baby Lock has built an entire ecosystem around making that process approachable. Look at something like the Baby Lock Aurora, generally priced under $1,500 and sometimes dipping under $1,200 during seasonal promotions. And you're getting genuinely professional embroidery capability without the professional price tag. Or the Baby Lock Flare, which often sits right around $2,000 and includes a larger hoop size that lets you grow into sweatshirts, quilting projects, and wall hangings without immediately needing an upgrade. What really separates Baby Lock, though, isn't just the hardware, it's the education and dealer support behind it. Baby Lock built out an extensive online learning portal specifically so new embroiderers aren't left guessing, and their dealer network is known throughout the industry for genuinely hands-on customer service, not just a transaction and a goodbye. If embroidery is a priority for you, and let's be honest, a huge number of American sewists got into this hobby specifically because they wanted to personalize gifts and home goods, Baby Lock is the brand that takes you from "I have no idea what I'm doing" to confident embroiderer the fastest, without needing to spend Bernina money to get there. Brand 6, Pfaff, the engineering sleeper pick. Pfaff doesn't always make these lists, and that's honestly a mistake, because this German-engineered brand brought one specific innovation to the sewing world that changed how multiple layers and slippery fabrics behave under the needle: integrated dual feed, or IDT. Here's why that matters. On most machines, only the bottom feed dogs are pulling your fabric through, which means your top and bottom layers can shift against each other, especially on fabrics like chiffon, velvet, vinyl, or quilted layers. Pfaff's built-in dual feed system evenly feeds fabric from both the top and bottom simultaneously, which means dramatically fewer puckers, dramatically less shifting, and noticeably cleaner results on exactly the kinds of projects that frustrate sewists the most. Pfaff machines tend to sit in a similar price bracket to Bernina and higher-end Janome models, and while the brand has had less U.S. market visibility in recent years compared to Brother or Singer, the engineering underneath has remained genuinely excellent: precise stitch regulation, sturdy metal internal frames, and that dual feed advantage that other brands still haven't fully replicated. Pfaff earns its place here as the specialist's choice. If you regularly work with tricky, shifty, or multi-layered fabric, think garment sewing with silks and velvets, or heavy quilting, this is the brand engineered specifically to solve that exact headache. Brand 7, Bernina, the Cadillac of sewing machines. And now, the brand that sewists actually compare to luxury cars, because that's not an exaggeration. That's the exact phrase you'll hear over and over in sewing forums. Bernina is a Swiss company, and Swiss engineering has a well-earned reputation across every industry it touches, from watches to precision tools. Sewing machines are no exception. Let's talk numbers, because Bernina's price range is famously wide, anywhere from around $1,500 for an entry Bernina-branded model, up past $10,000 for the flagship 7 Series machines. That's a serious financial decision, and Bernina knows it. So, what exactly are you paying for? You're paying for an all-metal internal chassis instead of the plastic gearing found in most competitors. You're paying for Bernina's dual feed system, which, much like Pfaff's IDT, evenly pulls fabric from top and bottom for flawless results on demanding fabrics. You're paying for a stitch plate and free arm that are precisely fitted together, instead of parts that visibly shift and gap the way cheaper machines often do. And you're paying for a company that treats its machines as heirlooms, not appliances. Bernina machines routinely get passed down a generation later and still sew beautifully. There's also something the other 6 brands on this list can't fully match: resale value. Because Bernina machines are built to be serviced rather than replaced, a well-maintained Bernina holds a meaningful percentage of its original price on the used market for years, sometimes decades. That's not something you'll find with a budget machine that's essentially worthless the moment it leaves the store. Is Bernina for everyone? Absolutely not. If you sew occasionally and don't need professional-grade precision, this is overkill. But if you sew seriously for a business, for competitive quilting, for garment work at a professional level, Bernina isn't just worth the money. Sewists who own one will tell you it's the machine they'd grab first if their house was on fire, no hesitation. How to actually choose between these 7. So now you've got 7 legitimate brands, and I know what you're thinking. Okay, but which one do I actually buy? Here's my honest, no fluff breakdown by situation. If you're a total beginner on a tight budget, start with Singer's heavy-duty line or a basic Brother. You want something forgiving and inexpensive while you figure out if this hobby sticks. If you've sewn before and want serious longevity without paying Bernina prices, Janome is your sweet spot. It will simply outlast most competitors at the same price point. If embroidery and personalization are your goal, go straight to Baby Lock and skip the learning curve frustration. If you're doing heavy quilting or garment production and tension consistency matters more than fancy stitches, the Juki TL-2010Q will genuinely outperform machines twice its price. If you work constantly with slippery or multi-layered fabric, Pfaff's dual feed system will save you hours of frustration. And if budget genuinely isn't the deciding factor and you want the best machine money can buy in North America, full stop, it's Bernina. Notice what's not on this list. There are dozens of other brands and off-brand imports crowding shelves and search results right now, machines with plastic gears disguised behind touchscreens, promising the world for $80. Those machines are exactly why so many beginners quit sewing in their first year, not because sewing is hard, but because their machine fought them the entire way. That is not a mistake you need to make. Stick to this list. Match it to your budget and your actual sewing goals, and you will own a machine that makes you better instead of one that makes you frustrated. And that's my honest 40 years in the making list. The 7 sewing machine brands that are actually worth your money in 2026. Singer, Brother, Janome, Juki, Babylock, Pfaff, and Bernina. If this saved you from making an expensive mistake, do me a favor and hit that like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach more sewists who need to hear this before they buy. If you haven't already, subscribe, because next week I'm breaking down exactly which specific models within these brands give you the best value at every single price point, from under $200 all the way up to the professional machines. And I want to hear from you. Drop a comment and tell me which brand your very first sewing machine was, and whether it made you fall in love with sewing or nearly made you quit. I read every single one, and some of my favorite video ideas have come straight from your stories. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. Now go thread that bobbin, and I'll see you in the next one.